Hey guys, David here with Filipino American couple, a couple story. Please like our videos, share our videos, and of course, please hit that subscribe button. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a topic that might be a little sensitive. If you have been, or you are around, or you want to be involved in around the Asian communities, then I have a terminology that I would like to share with you guys today. Now, the first being expat. What is an expat? An expat is usually somebody from a first world country, let's say the United States, Australia, who moves to a third world country. A lot of times it's Asia, but it could be South America, Jamaica, the DNR, all of those things, just other third world countries. Now, these folks moved there for a lot of different reasons. The word expat comes from being the bigger words of expatriate. Now, so in the United States, for instance, we consider ourselves patriots. When we leave our country to go live in another country, maybe we're sick of the tax rate, or sick of the government, or sick of this, or sick of that. Well, a lot of times we refer to ourselves as expats because we don't want to be considered immigrants in another country. Why that is, I don't know, but okay, so we don't want to be called immigrants, we want to be called expats, expatriates. Now understand, that doesn't mean that we hate our country, or that they don't want to, or that they want to give up citizenship or their rights to the country, or in a heartbeat wouldn't come back and fight for their country, no matter what country it is. That's not what being an expat means. It just means that these are good people who have chosen to go live and immerse themselves to become part of another culture, another community, in another country. A lot of them will marry and have kids and enjoy, the rest of their lives, in a warm tropical climate versus the cold winters of North America. So that's an expat. Do not get expat confused with sexpat. Big difference. Now, I'm going to read to you a couple of definitions of sexpat that I found on the internet that I think is really, really, really funny and true and very accurate. These are from urbandictionary.com, all right? A sexpat is anybody who moves to another country for the main reason obtaining easier sex. Okay? Usually sexpats originate from major Western countries. A lot of Germans, Americans, English make up the vast majority. Most of them travel to Southeast Asia, but it could be South American countries, Caribbean countries also. So, sexpats have only 3 motivations. 1, to get drunk. 2, to sleep with hookers. And the last one is to survive as long as they can, as long as possible, on very little money. All right. Here's my favorite. Sexpat. Once again, this is the urbandictionary.com. Usually referring to a creepy, fat, balding white male who goes to a third world country to exploit his white privilege, looking for a favorable currency exchange rate in host countries. A sex tourist on extended stay. These men have no game in their home countries and have typically low-level jobs back home. So they're low functioning is what this is saying. All right. So those are a couple little definitions of a sexpat. It's very true. So keep in mind, sexpat, expat, two different things. There are, I'm gonna give you three categories of sexpats. All right. The first category of sexpats are the gentlemen that go over to these countries looking for hookers. Now, why do they go to Southeast Asia or South America looking for hookers versus in their home country? One, because usually they're so disgusting that even hookers in their own country won't have anything to do with them. And two, that they can go to Southeast Asia and live on $1,000 a month in a dump but in a very low budget area that will allow them easy access to cheap hookers, $5, $10, $20 hookers, and they can take advantage and exploit that. Because you got to remember, if your main goal in life is to sleep with hookers, well, you really don't care about how nice of a one-bedroom apartment you have, or a studio that you have, or even just a room in a building with a common bathroom. Real common, real cheap there. You want to go live in Southeast Asia really cheap, well, you can do it. You can do it for, $100 a month, living in a crappy building, in one room and a shared bathroom amongst 30 or 40 other rooms. So, but a lot of these guys will do that just so they can go over and sleep with hookers on the cheap and drink and party and live out their deviant fantasy, I guess. Our second type of sexpat are the ones that are pedophiles. They actually have in mind of finding children to sleep with. We have them in America and all over the world also. They're everywhere. But in a lot of third world countries, there hasn't been a lot of checks and balances put into place to catch these guys. So they take advantage of that. Now, a lot of these guys aren't going to live in downtown Manila where all the hookers are. They're going to migrate out of the community, out of the big hustle bustle, into the communities where they can befriend neighborhood children, just like they do in the United States. Soccer coaches, baseball coaches, whatever, school teachers, whatever it may be, befriends these kids and grooms them and then molests them. Now, part of what happens a lot of times is a lot of these guys in their home countries will be in trouble. So maybe they finally got caught in their home country and they're waiting to go to trial. So what they decide to do is they see the writing on the wall. Look, I'm getting ready to go do 10 years in prison, so I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to go live in Southeast Asia where I can molest kids unknown. So they do that, and because it's not on their passport, they've not been convicted, so they're allowed into these countries. Now, so that happens a lot. Eventually and hopefully they will get caught and sent to prison in that country, and then that country will send them back to their home countries to be finish their sentence there. So that happens a lot. It's in the news quite regularly if you follow anything going on in Asian and third world countries. So we have the pedophiles, that type. The third type are the sexpats that are looking for normal young ladies because they don't want to have to pay them, or they don't want to sleep with the hookers. So they go looking for just normal, everyday girls, and they might find 1 out of 30 that will bite. So what they do is they go run a game on them. Oh, baby, you're so beautiful. Wow, I can see you being my wife. You should come with me. I'll take you to dinner. Let's go to the hotel. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, if those girls are that stupid to follow that guy or to believe him, well, then that's their fault. No, it's not. And let me tell you why. In a lot of these cultures, the it's part of their heritage, part of their culture, to want to be wives, want to be mothers. They love family. They're happy people. And to them, having a family, growing a family, making a family, being part of a family is all a good thing. And also you got to realize in these countries, like we used to do before the 1960s in the United States, it's called courting. So if you meet a girl and you hit it off, now it doesn't mean it's going to lead to marriage, but it means that the two people are working on that common goal of, let's see if this relationship goes into marriage. Otherwise, they don't do that. They don't just hang out with boys or girls or whatever it is just to be hanging out in a relationship way. I mean, friendship is one thing, but in the thought of having a relationship. So they kind of need to have an understanding, yes, I like you, you like me, okay, we should look and see if this is going to work to lead towards marriage. It's courting, no big deal, but that's what we used to do here, and a lot of those countries still do that, which is a good thing. So, because they kind of commit to themselves. So when they have somebody from a Western country, a first world country, telling them, wow, you are the most beautiful Filipino I've ever seen. Wow, you are so smart and wonderful. I would marry you. You would make a great wife. You could come to America with me. Well, maybe 1 out of 30 believe the BS, and they wind up, in a few days, sleeping with this idiot. The idiot videos it, whether the girl knows that or not, that's another issue. So we have that type of predator who's preying on these. The bad news is the next day the guy leaves and dumps the girl, and the girl has no clue what the hell just happened. She doesn't understand. So those are the 3 basic types of sexpats. Not to be confused with expats, which are just good everyday people trying to live their lives in another country from their home country. All right. Now, here's what we have going on now, and here's where the advice starts to come in. If you're a sexpat, you might want to listen to some of this. As in the United States, in the late 90s and the 2000s, there was all kinds of a big push by TV and media to go after predators. Because these predators were going after children on the internet, telling these 13-year-old girls, yeah, your parents are bad people, I'll buy you a car and give you all this alcohol you want, I'm the man of your dreams. And it's some 35-year-old pervert, who's trying to sleep with a child. So our law enforcement and media got involved, and to this day, I know law enforcement works very, very, very hard to try to prevent this. It still happens every day. We see it every day, but I do believe it has helped tremendously. I really do that, and I applaud the law enforcement. Law enforcement does a lot of bad, but you also got to realize they do a lot of really good things also. So we need to applaud that. Now, what's happening is these third world countries are starting to do the same thing. So not only are they setting up sting operations for prostitution, so like we do in the United States, they go after Johns in the United States. Not only the hookers, but the guys looking for the hookers, what they call Johns in the U.S. So, for instance, in Thailand and the Philippines, I know that there are sting operations going after Johns. So, and that hasn't been the normal, but now it's starting to become more normal. They're also realizing that the sex trade industry is bad for business on a global standpoint. These countries want to become second world countries than first world countries. They want economic development. And they're starting to realize to get companies from around the world to come there and to invest in their infrastructure and to invest into their economy, that they got to kind of clean up their act. They got to make it more user-friendly for everybody, and getting rid of the sexpats is part of that. So they're now doing sting operations. They're getting rid of what they would call Walking Street in Angelo City in the Philippines, because that was known for years as the place to go if you were a sexpat, apparently. So countries, especially in Asia, you know, these women love being wives. They want to be mothers. They want to have families. It's part of their culture and their heritage, which is a very good thing, very good thing. So when they meet somebody who says, hey, I'm really interested in you. I think you could be something special. We could be something special. Now, in their culture and in their heritage, if they start to kind of date somebody, a lot of times what that means is they quit dating other people with the thought that this is going to lead to marriage. It doesn't mean that they automatically expect, if you go on a date with somebody, that is going to become marriage. But if you're entering into a more serious relationship, then it's going to be heading towards marriage. You know, we did this in the United States back up until about the 50s, where a guy would court a young lady. They see it as the same way. If I run across a young lady in the Philippines and I start wooing her, telling her how great she is and how we should be together, well, they take that seriously, and they believe that. Well, so what these guys do is they may go after 30 women and knowing that they're only going to get one of them to sleep with them in the first few days. But that's all they care about. It's playing the odds. So they're going to go and hey, baby, 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 to 30 different girls. And the ones that bite, they're going to take them back to the hotel room, have sex with them, video them, and then they're going to dump them the next day. So, very deplorable, very upsetting, because a lot of these women don't understand what just happened to them. So those are our three basic type of sexpats, not expats. Remember, expat is somebody who moves to a second or third world country with the thoughts of establishing residency, becoming a good member of society, and enjoying the culture. A sexpat is somebody who moves to the country with the sole purpose of sexual gratification, whether it's hookers, children, or manipulating women who are looking for a better life, looking for a husband. So those are our types of sexpats. Now, I'll expand a little bit on what's going on now. So here's some of my advice to the sexpats and expats. Now, in the United States, back in the late 90s and the 2000s, there was all kinds of TV shows where people were setting up our molesters by pretending to be minor children on the internet, and then having these perverts come to their houses and getting busted. Law enforcement now proactively, which is a great thing, looks for these predators online. We do that every day. Now, I'm not saying that they catch everybody. They don't. It happens every day now still. That young girls are taken advantage of on the internet, and boys, taken advantage of on the internet by men or women. Could be, you know, firemen, it could be, you know, construction workers, school teachers, could be anybody from any walks of life. But we are being more proactive with it. What's happening in third world countries are the same thing. They're starting now to become more proactive and trying to eliminate the sexpat activity. Because these third world countries like the Philippines, Thailand, Jamaica, wherever, are starting to realize this is not good. It doesn't play well on the world sound stage. Because you got to understand, a lot of these third world countries, they don't want to be third world countries. They want to be second or first world countries. They want economic stimulation in their countries. They want people to come there and build factories and make things and provide them with a better living. So they know that from an international standpoint, sexpats are bad for global business. So they're working, plus we all got to hope, they're also doing it just to protect the children. Human trafficking is a huge ordeal in the world and a very sad ordeal. So a lot of these countries are now starting to proactively go after sexpats. A couple of ways they're doing that is they're setting up sting operations and prostitutions. I know, for instance, in the Philippines, in Angeles City, they had an area called Walking Street where all the prostitutes were. Well, apparently they've ran them off and done some things, trying to clean up the area. But they're also setting up stings to Johns. In the United States, we've been setting up Johns for years and years and years. But in a lot of countries, they haven't been doing that. So they're starting to do that. So for the guys that are looking for prostitutes, well, you better be careful. In the United States, you pick up a hooker, I guess you can get a slap on the wrist. In a third world country, there's a really good chance that you're going to spend some time in prison. Now, when it comes to, sorry, my dogs are going crazy, running all over the floor here. But when it comes to pedophiles, those folks, if they're lucky, they're only going to spend a lifetime in jail. It's a horrible, serious crime, and a lot of times it's punishable by life in prison. So, and then for the other guys that are going after these women who are hopeful and wanting a better life and trying to find a husband because they want to be a family person. Well, look, the communities, these people are getting known in the community. The thing that they really need to worry about, or what you guys need to really worry about if you're one of them, is the family members are getting sick of it. Brothers and uncles and dads are not appreciative of your behavior. Now, I don't advocate violence against anybody, but I'm just warning you, in these countries, they don't have the same laws and rules that apply in the United States. It's not surprising, and how hard do you think it's going to be investigated if you're walking down the road and somebody on a scooter, two people on a scooter, because there's lots of scooters everywhere in a lot of these countries. They drive by you and somebody whips out a gun and shoots you and kills you dead and you lay in the ditch. Well, they're going to call the local police, and the local police are going to come and talk and look around and go, oh, he's one of those guys. All right, well, somebody probably killed him. Yep. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, all right, talk to you guys later, And they go about their business. So you got to be aware of that's going to be happening, you sexpats. You're going to be set up by law enforcement. You're going to be tracked. And sometimes, the families are going to take back their revenge upon you. Now, what you have to keep in mind also is the expat community is absolutely sick and tired of sexpats. They give the expats a bad name and bad reputation. Because a lot of people will just assume that if you're from a first world country and you're coming to Southeast Asia, well, the only reason you're coming there is to have sex with their young girls. And we don't want anybody to think that of us, of expats. And so the community itself is starting to say, hey, it's not us, it's not how we behave, what can we do to help? which I applaud and I think is a really good thing.